Everyone to Microsoft Outlook 2016 Managing Contacts and Tasks. This webinar is a presentation of the New York State and CSEA Partnership for Education and Training. My name is Matt Trotta and I'll be your host for the webinar. And again, our facilitator today is Eleonora.
Hello.
At this point, I'm going to mute everyone's phones to keep background noise to a minimum. If you have questions at any time, you can click on the Raise Hand button at the bottom of the participants panel. It's an icon of a hand in the air next to the emoticon smiley face. Once called upon, I will unmute your phone and you can speak to us using your phone or a microphone attached to your computer. So I'd like everyone to try raising their hand now, please. Please click on that Raise Hand button. Excellent. I see all the hands in the participants panel, and you should see a hand up next to your name. And please click that again to lower your hand right now. There we go. Thank you, everyone. You can also type any questions or comments you have at any time during the webinar in the chat panel. Again, that's located at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Please just make sure everyone is selected in the Send To area, and when you have finished typing, you need to press that Enter or that little paper airplane arrow. As I mentioned, today's webinar is sponsored by the New York State and CSEA Partnership for Education and Training, or as many people refer to it, the Partnership. Some of you may be wondering what we are exactly. Well, for those of you who aren't already familiar with us, the Partnership is an organization that administers education and training programs for CSEA-represented employees through labor management cooperation. It's funded through negotiated agreements between New York State and CSEA. The Partnership offers in-person classroom training, online learning, educational advisement services, grants, tuition benefits, labor management services, and other education and training programs, including this webinar today. The Partnership is a joint labor management organization whose mission is to promote career mobility, improve job skills, support workplace safety and health, and promote effective labor management relations. You can learn more about us on our website or by calling us directly, and I will provide that information again at the end of the webinar. Now that we all know a bit more about the Partnership, we can get started with managing contacts and tasks. And I'll turn the presentation over to Eleonora.
Thank you, and I'm glad to be here. As Matt said, my name is Eleonora, and we're here today to talk about the contacts and tasks in Outlook, and I use contacts all the time in Outlook, use tasks all the time to remind me of things I have to do. So welcome, welcome. And throughout today's presentation, we will discuss several features in Microsoft Outlook to help you stay organized. This webinar will not teach you how to use all of the many features that could help you within Outlook. However, we have provided you with a handout that lists the features and commands in Outlook that will help with that.
And again, if you haven't printed the class handouts out yet, you can always do that after the webinar. You won't need them during. And they were sent to you as attachments on the email that you received when you were accepted into this webinar class.
So over the next hour, we'll explore how to use the contacts and tasks features in Outlook. Many people are familiar with Outlook because they use it to send and receive email or schedule appointments and meetings. However, Outlook has great features which you can use to help keep yourself organized. Today, you'll learn how you can add and modify your contacts and how to create and edit tasks and to-do lists. Along the way, we'll also discuss some best practices for managing your contacts and tasks so that they work for you. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be discussing several features, Outlook features today. Let's start by talking about how we can utilize Outlook's People View to create new and edit existing contacts. The People feature in Outlook allows you to digitally store information about each of the people you contact, including their email addresses, mailing addresses, phone numbers, and more. But before we dive into more details, I'd like to know more about how you store your contact information right now.
Okay, everyone, I've opened a polling panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Please take your mouse and click on the option that applies to you, how you are currently storing contact information. A, Outlook, B, phone, C, paper, D, your memory, or E, you don't have a system. Or
Uh-oh.
maybe it's a little bit of everything. Let's see what they say. And if you can't see the poll, feel free to let us know in the chat. We'll check that as well. I see some responses coming in, whatever's easier for you. We've got a response in the chat for A and B and several Bs. So a lot of people are using their smartphone. And that also wins out in the poll too. So
Yeah.
we have a majority using their phone right now, Eleonora.
I see that. I see that. Well, yeah, and I'd have to vote with B as well. I use my phone. We didn't see a lot of D, which was good, I'd suppose. So thanks for sharing your methods for storing information. And does anyone have a stack of paper business cards you save for contact information? I know I still do. I'm just trying to break that habit since they're easy to lose, like Post-it notes.
I've been known to keep a Post-it note myself, but yeah, I'm moving more to the phone now.
Okay.
So,
All right.
being
Okay.
dragged to the technology. But before we move on, also everyone please notice that polling panel might have collapsed your other panels. I don't want you to lose participants in chat. So please click on those to reopen those on the right-hand side. Again, participants panel and chat panel. Thank you.
Great. Yep. Well, I do see a chat that says I have some business cards. So yeah, they're still out there. So digital contact lists are the modern day equivalent of a paper Rolodex, address book, or stack of business cards. When you save a contact in Outlook, it becomes an electronic card that saves a person's information. The data you capture can be as simple as the name and email address, or you can include much more. Let's start by taking a look at where you can find contacts in Outlook. Depending on how your view is configured, the navigation bar at the bottom left of your Outlook window will either display icons or words that identify how to switch between your mail, calendar, people, and tasks screen. And if you have a much, much newer version of Outlook, it might be also on the left-hand side of the screen as opposed to the bottom. But you can access your contacts by selecting the people icon or the word on the navigation bar. And I know that's kind of quirky. We use contacts and people, but that's how it works in Outlook. But we've highlighted it for you on this slide. For the rest of the webinar, we'll be showing you screenshots that use the compact view of the navigation bar. That is the one that displays the icons. Now that we know how to access the people view, let's look at how to create a new contact. To create a new contact, first click the people icon on the navigation bar. Then select New Contact from the People ribbon. I know it may feel a bit confusing to go to the People view, but when we want to create a contact, but that's the way it is. So there you go. Once you select New Contact, a window will open that lets you type in the details about your contact. Take a moment to look at the screen. What information would you guess you would need to fill in at a minimum in order to create a new contact? In other words, what information do you think is necessary and what information is nice to have in a contact?
Please use the chat panel to type the information or fields that you think must be filled in at a minimum to create a new contact. So if we had to have red asterisks on these, which ones would you think are required for a useful new contact?
Yeah, I see some answers coming in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Name and email, definitely.
Name and email, full name. Yep. Yep, I see them.
Yeah. Name, email,
phone number,
and maybe company.
Yep. All right.
I agree.
So, yep. So everybody's got some good ideas. So thanks for sharing your ideas with us, everyone. It may surprise you to know that all you need to create a new contact is a name. However, as most of you noted in the chat, there are many other useful fields available to us in this new contact, like you said, email and things like that. So that to make the contact the most useful in Outlook, you'll probably want to have an email address too. Phone numbers, job titles, mailing address, and notes are bonuses. But the only required field is full name. Once you have entered all the information you have, or you want to record, just click Save and Close, the Save and Close button, which is in the upper left-hand corner, and your new contact will be added to your list of personal contacts. Now that we've looked at how to create a new contact using the people view, let's take a look at another way to quickly create a new contact from an email message. You may notice I've marked the screenshot with the steps that you'll need to do to create a new contact to make things a bit clearer for you. For example, the first step is to go to your inbox by clicking on the mail icon in the lower left-hand navigation bar. For clarity, that step is shown here as number 1. The next step is to open the email from the person you want to save as a contact. At the top of the message, the sender's name will appear. If you right-click on the name or email address, which is step 2, a drop-down menu will appear. Next, select Add to Contacts, our step 3, and this new drop-down menu. When you do that, a new window will open. By the way, it's the same window we just used to enter a new contact a moment ago. This time, however, a name and email address will automatically be added for you in the form. That's one of the reasons I like this method. I always like things that are faster. Next, we review the information to make any changes as needed, and then click Save and Close. One of the primary benefits for keeping your contacts in Outlook is that it's much easier to pull a person's information into a new email rather than typing it out. Their email address in full, rather than typing out their email address in full. You can begin typing their name and Outlook will search your contacts for a list of matches. The time savings you get from doing this makes Outlook contacts a best practice. Let's say you need to send an email to Maria Alvarez, a contact we recently added. You'd begin by starting to type a new email message, and in the To field of this new email, we can begin typing her name. As you type, Outlook will make suggestions based on your contact list and recent individuals we have emailed. As you can see on the slide, we only need to type in the first name of the person to find her information in the contact list. If you have many people in your contact list with the same name or similar first names, you may have to type a bit more before Outlook makes the right suggestions. You do need to be careful, though. If the name is a common one and the wrong one may pop up first, make sure you pick the right one. I've done that. You can also search by last name, which may help if it's less common than the first name. Oh, yep. You always want to make sure when Outlook does that autocomplete that you pick the right one. Has anyone here ever needed to search for a phone number or an email address and couldn't find it? One of the benefits of keeping your contact information in digital format, such as Outlook, is that they become searchable. So storing your contacts in Outlook rather than keeping them on paper is a best practice. If we wanted to call Maria instead of sending her an email, we could search our contact list for her information, open her contact card, and use the stored phone number. Searching your contacts can also be useful if you remember some details about a person, but not all of them. For example, if I couldn't remember Maria's full name, maybe I would remember the agency she worked for, and in this example, it's ITS. So how do you search your contacts? After clicking on the people icon, which is always how you'd start, you should click on the search bar, which is our step number 2. In the search bar, type a keyword such as ITS. Anyone in your contact list who has that acronym in their email or somewhere else in their contact card will show up in the results. When you click on Maria's contact, you can quickly see her information on the right. Excellent. Once you know how to search, it's just one more step to edit a contact. Right-click and then select Edit Contact. This will open the same page you saw earlier when adding a contact with the existing information already populated. Make the changes you need, and when you're done, don't forget to click Save and Close. Now, let's say your supervisor stopped by your desk and asked you to take the lead on an upcoming project. As you're thinking about it, you begin to realize there will be probably a lot of email going back and forth among the project team members. Can you think of a way that you can easily send a mail message to the entire project team?
Please share your ideas with us about how you could easily send emails to everyone on the project team. And use the chat box for that, please, at the bottom right. So emails to the whole team.
Yep. Contact group. Yep, I see it. Use a group email. Yep. Yep, create a group with some exclamation points. Totally. I think everybody's come up with the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
I would say so. But if you wanted to do that, it's always best to start by adding any of the people you want to be in the group in your address book and then create the group. We'll look at this a bit more closely in a moment. I mentioned that it's best to create any missing contacts before you create a group. But what if someone could send you that contact? A person can forward one of their contacts in several formats. One option is a standard internet format that other email systems like Gmail can use called a vCard format. So how do you do that? When you're in the contacts view, you should click on the forward button. A drop-down will open with 3 options. Once you select one of the options, an Outlook email message will open. Fill in the name of the person or people to whom you are sending the contact. Use the body of the email message to add in any additional notes you would like to send along with the contact, and then select Send to email the forwarded contact. Remember how I said I have a stack of business cards? Some people share a virtual business card. Now by using vCard, virtual business card, information in their email. That way I can save their information directly into Outlook, skipping the paper altogether. That makes a lot more sense to me. If you're going to be emailing the same group of people several times, it may be worth your time to create a group. Sometimes these are referred to as distribution lists, but in Outlook they are called contact groups. To create a new contact group, first click on the people icon, then select New Contact Group from the Home tab on the ribbon. Once you click on New Contact Group, a window will open, and you can start by selecting Add Members, which is number 1 on the screen. A drop-down menu will appear from that list, and then select From Outlook Contacts. We're showing this as step number 2. Next, choose all the individuals from your Outlook contacts that you would like to appear in the contact group. Once you've added everyone, be sure to give the contact group a name, which is step number 3, and then click Save and Close, step number 4. Once the group is created, we can send an email message to the entire group by typing the group's name in the To field of an email message, rather than typing out all the email addresses separately. Much easier. That's a much easier way to do it. So now I have a question for you. Let's say that your supervisor has also asked you to send a weekly report to 7 of your teammates. You don't have a contact for one of those 7 yet. She has also asked you to make sure that your coworker can send these reports when you're out as a backup. Look at the steps on this slide. Which step would you do first to carry out your supervisor's request?
Okay, we have a poll on the right-hand side of the screen. Let us know what is first. The choices are A, forward the contact group to the coworker backing you up. B, search your Outlook contacts to make sure you have all 7 set up. C, create a new Outlook contact for any missing individuals. Or D, create a new contact group. So what's first to build your group of 7? We'll give you a minute to let us know in chat or via the poll. And we currently have B in the lead in the poll and in the chat as well. So let's go with B.
I agree, Matt. I think B is probably the best bet. So yeah, I see a lot of you selected B as your first step, and I agree. Searching always a good idea. It's the best practice to determine if you have all the contacts you'll be needing in your group before you create the group. Next, you'd create any missing contacts. Okay. Only then should you create the new contact group, being sure to name it something that is relevant to the report. And doing it this way can save time. So there you go. So B would be number 1, create the new contact as number 2, and then you can go ahead and do, I'd say D is number 3, create the new contact group, and then you can always forward it to somebody if needed. So that's really handy. So your last step, forward it to the coworker so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. So does anyone have any questions about Outlook contacts before we move on?
If you do have a question, like I said earlier, you can raise your hand with the raise hand button or type your question in the chat box. And I'll give you a few seconds to type if you do. So far we've covered contact groups and creating those.
And
Any questions?
contacts, how to create contacts.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Oh yeah, I will monitor the chat. If a question
Okay.
comes in, we can always pause and respond, right?
Yep, that would be great. I don't mind. That's how I like
Oh.
it. All right. So now that we've looked at the contacts function of Outlook, we know how to manage the information about people we know. But what about all the tasks and to-do items we already have every day? Fortunately, Outlook has a tasks feature which helps you manage exactly that. Before we begin talking about tasks, can you guess where you might click to use the Outlook Tasks feature? Once again, we've provided you with 2 screenshots based on the different view layouts. I'd like you to type your answer in the chat box.
Please type where you would click on the screen you see to use Outlook's tasks feature in the chat. So via the chat box, where you're going to click on this image on this slide to get to tasks. Please let us know in the chat. There you go.
Yeah.
Does everyone see the clipboard with a check mark?
Yep, the clipboard with the check mark.
Correct.
All right, great. Looks like most of you were able to figure out where you would click, even if tasks is not a feature you've already used in the past. Now, just a little FYI, if you don't see it on the bottom, next to those 3 dots, you could always click those 3 dots and then you can add additional items to your navigation pane at the bottom, and tasks would be one of them. Also, you may see it on the left-hand side of the screen with a check mark that says to do. So if you have a much newer version, but clipboard's the way to go. So here is a closer look again at where you can find tasks button on the navigation pane. We're showing you the 2 different views depending on the layout option you may have chosen. Now that you know where to find them, how might you use tasks in Outlook? Let's say you need to do several things this week. It's best to create a digital task for each of those things. Once again, paper can get lost, sticky notes, they can get lost. So let's try creating an Outlook task. So first, click on the tasks icon. You'll be brought to the tasks view and we'll see the task ribbon. There is actually more than one way to create a new task. However, the most common way is to click on the New Task button on the Home tab when you're in the Tasks view. We have a New Task button highlighted here. This slide shows you what you would see after clicking the New Task button. Using only what you see in the screenshot, can you think of the next steps you might take to set up this task to remind you to follow up with Maria?
Please share your ideas about the next steps to schedule this task in the chat box. While
people are commenting on that, I do see the question from Carrie about flags. So flags actually do create a task for you. So flags are a type of task. So we'll talk about those.
Okay, great.
So let's see. Choose your start
so far
time.
We have start time and subject.
Yeah, start time and subject. Those would probably be really important. Subject, start, subjects and reminders. Due date. If you have 2 email boxes, it would be for whatever email box you're looking at the moment, whoever email box you're in at the moment. Due date. Yeah, so those are all good answers. So thanks for sharing your ideas. But a subject, the start date, the due date, you can even set priorities and a reminder for yourself. But I always think it's a good idea and a best practice to set a reminder for yourself. And of course, once you're done typing, don't forget to click save and close. So that's a good thing. So lots of great ideas. The reminder checkbox is on the left-hand side of the task details screen. Once we click the reminder checkbox, the boxes to the right become available and we can set a date and time for the reminder. If you set a reminder, you'll receive a task reminder just like you do for an appointment reminder. You can see an example of this at the bottom of the screen. Here's how our new task would appear in our task list once we have saved it. Okay. You might be surprised to find that you can create another type of task in your inbox called a to-do item. Here's a screenshot of an inbox. When you select an email message in that inbox, you'll see a flag icon at the right. You can simply click on the flag to set a due date of today, or you can right-click on it to set a different reminder time frame. You can see the choices that you have highlighted on the red box on the screen. To-do items appear in your inbox by being flagged, but they also appear in your task view. So yep, you can flag an email as well. So what's the difference between a to-do item and a task? In general, tasks are items you create from scratch in the task view, and they are not necessarily associated with an email message. You can also store a lot more information such as a start date and a priority in a task. Likewise, you can assign a task to other people, which might be helpful to do when sharing tasks as part of a group project. You can't do that with to-do items or with the flags, so they're a bit more limited. Let's suppose you created a task to contact Maria by Thursday. Then you ran into Maria this morning in the parking lot, and she said it's taking a bit longer than she thought to complete her work. She asked if you could contact her on Friday instead. Knowing this, as soon as you get back to your computer, you should make the change to your task. To edit a task, you would first go to Tasks in the navigation bar, then open the task you would like to edit by double-clicking on the task. Make your changes, then click Save and Close. Once you have completed a task, we can mark it completed. And that's another best practice. This accomplishes two goals. First, it keeps our tasks list current, and secondly, it gives you a sense of accomplishment. There's nothing like seeing those tasks all checked off and crossed off. I love seeing that, Matt. In Outlook, there are several ways to mark tasks completed. So let's talk about two of them. When you're in Task View, you will be shown a list of both your tasks and your to-do list. As I mentioned, there are several ways to mark a task or to-do item complete. One way is to select the desired task or to-do item and then select the Mark Complete button. Another way to excuse me, is to simply click on the red flag icon that appears to the right of the task or to-do. This will change the red flag to a green check mark, which means it's completed. Yay! Love seeing the green. Now that you've learned a bit more about the Tasks feature in Outlook, how likely are you to use it in the future? Please don't feel awkward if you don't think you would use this feature. I'm just curious.
I have a poll for that as well. Again, it's on the right-hand side of the screen, or you can let us know in chat with 3 simple responses of will you use tasks? A, yes, definitely. B, sometimes, or C, not likely. And again, be completely truthful. You won't hurt our feelings.
No. Oh, all
So,
right. So we got
yeah,
some.
there you go. Those are
All
some
right.
great responses. And
All right. We got a few C's too, which is okay. It's good to hear. I had to talk some people into using tasks instead of appointments. They kept setting appointments for things they had to do by Friday, and I'm like, well, but that's not the way to do it. You want to use a task for that. So, but thanks for sharing your thoughts about tasks in Outlook. Regardless of your experience with the task feature, I think that you may find it helpful at some point. Let's say you were asked to order a carton of paper and you have added it as a task on your task list. But now you've been told that 2 cartons were located in the back of the supply closet, so you no longer need to order paper. Therefore, you need to go to that task and delete it. After all, you didn't complete it, you just no longer need to do it. So delete is best. As with marking a task complete, there are many ways to delete a task. The easiest to remember is to simply select the task you want to delete and then select delete from the ribbon. While we're on the subject of tasks, have you ever had a task that needed to be done each week, such as filling out a report?
If you have recurring tasks at your job, please click the raise hand button to let us know. And again, these are things that need to be done every week or every month.
I see those hands going up.
Of course.
Yeah, we all have those recurring tasks, things you got to do every Friday or every day. Yeah. So many of us have to do weekly activities, and Outlook's task feature has a wonderful tool called recurring tasks that allows us to make just one entry that repeats every week, freeing us from having to create separate to-do items every single week. If you have a task that repeats over a period of time, using the recurrence feature will save you time. Because of this, using recurring tasks when you can is a best practice. To create a recurring task, click on the recurrence button on the ribbon when creating or editing a task. When you select recurrence, a new window will open asking you to define how often to be reminded of the task. Once you'd entered your recurrence details, you would click on OK and then click Save and Close when you're done. So you can make them weekly, daily, monthly, yearly. They can recur every 2 weeks if you needed it to. And then you can set a range, a start date, and an end date. So it's very helpful to do that. There are a number of ways to view your task list. So far, you've seen the tasks in Tasks View. You can also view your tasks in your calendar. First, click on the calendar icon. Next, click on the View tab. Then click the drop-down next to To-Do bar. And finally, select Tasks. The result will look something like what you see here on the slide, with a list of tasks on the right-hand side of the screen. You may be wondering at this point, what is the difference between a task and appointment? Since they both appear on your calendar. Unlike an appointment, a task will stay on your calendar day after day after day after day until you mark it completed. So an appointment has a start time and an end time. So after the appointment is over, it goes, it's on your calendar, but it's done. But a task will just keep appearing on your task list until you mark it complete. And in fact, if it's overdue, it turns bright red. It's very nice to see. So that's why I like tasks. We've talked about how to create, edit, and delete tasks and also how to view them. We've also talked about how to mark them complete. So let's try an activity where you can put what you've learned into practice. You have been informed that you will need to complete several mandatory training courses by a certain date. How could you use the tasks feature to help you?
Please share your ideas about how you could use tasks to help you with the situation, and use the chat box for that, please. We've got a couple of questions about deleted and completed. Carrie asks, if you delete a task, is all the data on it gone, as opposed to checking it as complete?
Yes, if you delete a task it's gone. It will go into your trash. It should go into your trash when you delete a task, but depending on your policies, your trash may get emptied. So you might want to take a look at that. But it becomes a deleted item. But yes, so yes, if you wanted to keep a record of something on that task, you wouldn't delete it, you would mark it complete. But just like in our example where we had a carton of paper we were supposed to order and then we didn't need it anymore, well, it's gone, so I wouldn't necessarily keep that one. So,
as opposed to Michelle's point, which is you can go back and look at completed?
Yes, you could go back and look at a completed task. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So a completed task, you can get to them. To get back to them in your task list view, there's a number of different views when you're looking at a task list. One of them is like a compact view, and then there's also a detail view. And when you're looking at tasks in a detail view, you'll see completed tasks, overdue tasks. You'll see everything with flags on them. So there's a couple of different ways to view the task list. So just be aware of that. So yeah, you might have to use a different view to see all your tasks, but they're there. So you can absolutely see the tasks.
Okay.
Let's see. So, yep.
Yeah, a
So
lot of good responses to
yeah,
your
I see
question
them.
slide here.
Yep, yep. You can set up multiple tasks. Yep. You can, set up tasks almost like with a schedule for yourself. So yeah, lots of great ideas here. So thanks. Lots of great suggestions. Creating a task for each training day, creating a recurring task to take your training on a specific date each week. So thanks so much. And setting priorities. Great, great. Good ideas. So does anyone have any other questions about using tasks in Outlook before we move on to our last topic?
Okay, please let us know in the chat panel or by raising your hand if you have any questions about tasks before we start our third and final topic today. Will tasks transfer to Teams on your calendar?
So will tasks transfer to Teams? So tasks don't necessarily go on your calendar. Tasks are not scheduled on your calendar. They only appear in your task list. So they don't behave quite the same as an appointment. So if you put a task on your task list, it doesn't necessarily appear on a calendar that everybody else could see. So that is a bit different. So no, it wouldn't appear, but there is something in Teams and newer Outlook called to-dos, and there are ways to share those with other people. But no, they don't appear on your calendar. So they would not appear in your Teams calendar. So there's that. Can you color code tasks? I see that question. So you can color code tasks by using categories. So if you want to, you could create a category, and then you can use those categories to categorize a task. So you can color code your tasks. You can't color code the flags other than the red. Flags on your emails are always going to be a shade of red, which would be the closer they get to the due date, that they will go ahead and just turn brighter red and brighter red, but you could color code tasks using categories. So there's that. And you can always try these things out, create a task for yourself, and then when you go into Teams, you won't necessarily see it there. It's not on your calendar per se. So.
Right, and if you did want it, if you wanted people to know you were busy with your trainings, you would just make an appointment on your calendar,
Yes.
and then that would transfer to the Teams calendar.
That is correct. Yep. So once again, think of tasks as just a to-do list you write for yourself more so than anything. Or yes, you can assign a task to somebody else that they have a report due by Friday. So, you know, that you can assign it to somebody else, and actually as they progressively complete the task, they can mark it 25% complete, 50% complete, and you can be informed of that, but it doesn't go on your calendar. So that's one of the other things you can do with tasks. So there you go. Other questions before we move on to the next, our best practices before we move on to. So you can.
I don't see any hands up, but
Yep.
as always, if you think of a question, put it in the chat.
Yep. And yep, absolutely. All right. So we've looked at contacts and we've looked at tasks in Outlook. And now that we've covered the basics, I'd like to take some time to remind you of those best practices we talked about using these features. Let's say you have been working with Maria from New York State Office for Information Technology, or ITS, on a recurring issue on your computer. She has asked you to email her if the problem continues, and it has. But you realize you don't have her email address. What can you do?
Okay, please share your ideas in the chat box. What can you do if you don't have Maria's email address from ITS? You've been working with her, and you need her email.
Yep. 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 Somebody said it. I saw it. Use the global. We did have a
Yeah.
question about somebody asking, would we be able to go back to this webinar if need
Yes.
be? Yep.
Well, we do have recordings on our website of all of our webinars. So it may not be this particular, session of this webinar, but the content's out there.
Yep.
Yeah, we do record these and put them on the website. So if you want to go back and rewatch, those are out there. Just
Excellent.
search recordings in the search box.
All right. So yes, a couple of people have said search contacts in her address books, if not already there. And then somebody mentioned it. A couple of people have mentioned it, the global contact list. So thank you all for sharing your ideas. Another thought is you could also ask someone else for her contact information. So you could have someone else forward you her information. However, when the person is a New York State employee, which Maria is, there's an easier way. The contact information is stored in the global address book in Outlook for all New York State employees. So to find Maria, all you need is her name. You already know what agency she works for, so if there happen to be multiple people with the same name, you can usually find the right one by identifying her agency. So yes, all New York State employees have access to what's known as the New York State or the global address list in Outlook. So how do you get there? So some of you may know that you can access the New York State global list of addresses from the new email screen. You can just create a new email and, you can click on the to button and it'll open it up. But can you tell me where you would click to open this list?
Please let us know in chat, where would you click on this screen to access the ITS global address list?
Sorry, Matt, I think I gave it away. But there's another
Oh.
place to go.
All right, either one. And if you didn't know, sometimes you have to scroll right in that global address list, but let's say you had two people with the same name at the same agency, there are optional fields out to the right which give their title and their department, which can be helpful too.
Yep. So
we've got some comments here, names or the to button.
Box, right, yeah. So yep. So yeah, there are basically two ways to get there. You could click on names and you can go to the address book. If it's a drop down, you'll see address book under there. Or as some of you had said, the to. You can click on to. Once there, you want to make sure you want to make sure you're looking in the global address list. So where it says address book, you might want to click where it says global address list as opposed to personal contacts or something like that. So once there, you could scroll through it to look for Maria's last name, which could take a long time. So better yet, you could type the first letters of her last name in the search box and then click go to the right. And where her name can be, and then notice that the agency the person works for is in parentheses after their name. Once you've found Maria, you can click on her name and then click the to button at the bottom of the screen. After you do this, go ahead and click on OK, and then add her address. Her email address will automatically be added to the message. So up at the top is where you do the search. You want to make sure where it says address list, it says global address list. Search for her name, then you click on it, and then at the bottom of the screen, you click on to. Her name is added, and then you click on OK. There you go. Let's take a survey. Do you think it's possible to add Maria to your personal contacts from this screen once you've found her? Yes or no?
Okay, there's a poll open, as well as you can let us know in the chat panel. So can we add her to contacts from this screen right here, yes or no?
Yep, I see it.
Oh, it's
Yep.
big capital letters, yes.
Yes, I would agree, Matt. Yep. So yeah, I see a lot of you are thinking, yeah, you could create a contact right from this screen, and yeah, it's true. All you have to do is right-click on a name and choose Add to Contacts, and you could add that person to your contacts, to your own personal contacts. By the way, you can also search your personal contact list here by clicking on the address book drop down and selecting contacts from there. So that drop down where it says address book in our screenshot here on the right hand side. That's going to be really important because you want to make sure you're looking in the correct address book for whoever it is you're looking for, because if you're not in the right address book, you won't find them. Thanks, Matt, for pointing that out. So yeah, you always want to make sure that's correct. Okay. We've talked about how to use the global address list, and that is a best practice for working with contacts in the state. Can you think of some of the best practices we talked about for using tasks?
Please share with us your ideas about best practices for working with tasks in Outlook. We've mentioned probably 5 or 6 so far. They may or may not have been put into chat. Let us know what you remember
hint.
for best practices.
Yeah, hint, hint, they may have been put in the chat.
Yeah, let us know in the chat panel
If you can
what you recall about those.
Group emails, sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
the weekly tasks, that would go to recurrence. We've got the group.
Recurrence, that was one of them. Using group emails, yep, that was one of them.
Prioritizing.
Yep, deadlines. Setting priorities, reminding, deleting tasks no longer needed, sure. Marking complete reminders, reminders was a good one. And how about using those sticky notes to remember somebody's contact information? I personally think that's a best practice because sticky notes never get lost. I love that Geico commercial, right, Matt? That somebody's like, she has all the sticky notes on her phone and remind her to pick her husband up at the airport.
Yes.
Oops. That's not how it works. But group emails.
Yeah.
Great.
Good job. I think they got them all.
Yeah. So great ideas, and thank you all for sharing. To summarize, some of the best practices when working with tasks are using a digital tool, not paper, which can be lost, and that's true for tasks and contacts. Setting reminders to ensure follow-up, and recurrence for tasks that repeat every day, week, or month. So I think you all got them. And group emails, perfect. So does anyone have any last-minute tips or tricks for working with tasks, features, and Outlook that they'd like to share before we move on? So if you have anything you've learned about anything else.
Yeah, if you have any tips or questions, please use the chat panel or raise your hand. Anything you think we missed that you know about in tasks and contacts?
All right. Looks
I
good.
guess not.
All right.
Well done.
Well done. Well, we got one more putting it all together for them, Matt.
All right.
So let's put it all together here. Everything you've learned about with Outlook's contacts and tasks. Let's say Jane from the Business Service Center is helping you with a time card problem and has asked you to gather some information for her by Monday and then email it to her. She says that if she doesn't respond by Tuesday, to give her a call. How could you use contacts or tasks to help you do this?
Again, please share your ideas in the chat panel. What did we learn today that we can use to make this so much easier for us?
Mm-hmm.
And Carrie had a comment about making them private. I think that might have been a tip rather than a best practice.
Yep. You can. So you can create tasks and make them private if that's something you need to do. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Carrie. So let's see, we've got reminders.
Right. And create a task to remind you. Use contact to store Jane's contact info and use a task to remind. There you go. Reminder and use a contact. Excellent. Set up a reminder. Yep, and we got some.
Now we have to have her email first for the contact.
Right.
So hopefully we have that, and if we don't, we know where to go.
Yeah, use the global address list. We could do that. Set a reminder in tasks. Set a reminder in your tasks. So yeah, great. I think people have suggested using contacts to save Jane's email and phone number, or alternatively, using the global address book to find her information. Some of you have mentioned using the tasks feature to create a task and then send Jane to number one to send Jane the info. So there are two tasks there. So send Jane the info by Tuesday or whatever date it was, sorry. And then if she doesn't respond by Tuesday, to follow up with her. So you could set a follow-up reminder as well. Well, yeah, it looks like people have figured it out.
Great.
Yeah, so great.
Thank you,
Thanks so
everyone.
much. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing your ideas with us. We really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing part of your day with us. And before we move on to questions and answers, I'd like to turn this webinar over to Matt, who will talk to you about the upcoming webinars and the course evaluation.
Thank you, Eleonora, and thank you for this great webinar on contacts and tasks. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Before we wrap up at the top of the hour, I want to mention that when you exit this WebEx webinar, our survey or evaluation will pop up in your default browser window. So please look for that. It should only take a few minutes for you to leave your feedback on what you thought of the webinar. And we do look at them all and use them to improve our webinars going forward. So I thank you in advance for filling that out after you leave the webinar today. Also, I'd like to mention if you scan the QR code on the screen, it takes you to our Skills for Success catalog, where you can search for upcoming webinars or view our in-person classes being offered this semester. So simply scan that QR code with your smartphone or device and be taken right to the catalog on the partnership website. I also want to let